Hey everybody, it's Thursday.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And I feel like we were just kind of close on even being here tonight. I don't know. It's one of those weeks, summer is going on and people are busy. And I guess I can't say that we are out and about, but we have been busy as well. And glad to be here, I guess.
Yeah. I guess we decided to pick the hardest thing to cook right before the show. So.
That is true. I know a lot of times people at home, you guys are cooking dinner or making rods or baits or all kinds of fun things. So thank you for spending your time with us. And if I had to guess, I would say there might be a few more people joining us than normal, at least from the northern parts of Wisconsin, because boy, do we have a storm system rolling through.
Yeah, it's just starting to thunder here too. So
we both look that way because we have a window that way, and obviously nobody at home can tell that. But I do imagine at some point we might even hear some thunder or lightning. So I hope we don't lose power, and I hope that we don't lose you guys. But if we do, we'll just go with the flow and see what happens. So hopefully the weather is good by you guys. But we actually had some decent weather this past weekend, and we got to do a bit more fishing.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad. I mean, it was a little warm, but we had some breeze, so that always makes it a little bit better out there. Yeah, fishing was pretty good. One thing that's tripping me up, I guess, and I don't know why it is so much, but so we're so used to these times of year, right? And we have cycles that we go through, and being that this is our first full year, we even got a card in the mail from our realtor saying congratulations for your 1-year anniversary. So we've been here for one full year. We've been fishing the area for a full year, and
it doesn't feel like it.
It's the thing that's tripping me up is the water temperature. And I don't know if it's really as big of a change as it seems to be in my mind.
Well, and every year is different from every other year, and so you have to factor that in.
But the water here has been a little bit cooler as I remember it from, fishing summers past. So I feel like we're fishing like 5 to 8 degrees cooler than we're normally used to fishing. And so this past weekend, getting back to that, we were trying to fish some of our summer depths that we normally try. And in the weeds, we weren't doing, the off deeper stuff, but we were in the weeds, and we ended up going shallower than we usually fish. So it was just kind of weird for me.
Well, the other thing that really played into a factor, and I'm not pointing fingers because this means nothing, but you were normally the one that tucks the boat in, and it seems like from Saturday to Sunday, we have a really funky way that the power connects, and it's great because it's in a bank, and it's not really that hard, but you have to jiggle it and make sure that it's in. And I think we ended up on Sunday, because that was going to be our longer fishing day, I think we ended up with our boat at not full power, because we ended up having the trolling I was going to say remote. That wasn't even true. The trolling batteries die. So actually my front graph and the whole trolling motor turned off. And so, we kind of buckled that up for the day. And like Josh said, it was pretty windy. And so we had done a fair amount of drifting that day already. And, we've had limited success or some here and there, but boy, the perch in the lake that we were on, they were snapping. And so that was not our target species, but we caught quite a few bass, and we actually caught a few panfish too. So, one of the things about fishing is just going out and making the best of your situation, because even when you think you're got a plan, you never know what's going to happen. And that's, I guess, the exact same thing as with the water temperatures, like you're saying. You kind of deal the cards that you are dealt, or you play the cards that you're dealt, whatever the phrase is. But I think also something that's played in really big for me is that we had spent so much time fishing the river, or fishing little teeny tiny pothole lakes that were full of weeds. And up where we are finding a lot of these bodies of water have big sand or gravel or rock bars, in places where weeds can't even grow. So in some of these places where they are, the water is shallow, and you don't have as many of these weed walls growing up. And I guess I use that term. It's a fake term. I made it up. But the reason is because, some of our favorite lakes just a little bit south of us, first of all, launching is disgusting because it's inundated with floating weeds and gunk and all of that stuff. We all know that lake when you show up and it is green. And so, when you get to a lake like that and you kind of tool out into that slightly deeper water, you do find in a lot of cases sharp cutoffs where the weeds end. But up here, we are finding that the water bodies have a different terrain or bottom substrate. I don't know what you exactly call that. But when you do have so many rocks, so many gravel piles, I mean, that is different fishing than those green and weed-filled bodies of water. And so that's, I think, one switch that we've had to make, and something that's going to be fun to, I guess, factor in as we continue to talk about the show, because, all we can do is share our examples and what's working for us. But I think our move has also opened up my eyes a little bit to, I don't want to say all the kinds of fishing out there, because it's not that we've done even anything different. It's not even, but the water bodies, they are different. And so that's been really fun to explore.
Yeah. And I mean, we know how to do some of the other stuff, go and do some vertical jigging and some drop shotting and this and that. And we did go and we checked some of the deeper wood, whether it's cribs, whether it's tree drops, we've explored some of those areas. We're lucky enough to be great friends with Aquaview, and we had the AV 722, I think it is, and we were able to use that and verify what I was seeing on the screen and what you were seeing on your screen. There just wasn't any fish holding on them. This is only 14 feet of water, and that's something that I feel like it's kind of weird to me, because this time of year, that's what you always think of, going a little bit deeper, trying that out. You were saying we were drifting, we were out in 12 feet of water and we were seeing little pods of fish on the bottom. Blankets of perch, blankets and blankets of perch. And it was awesome, because we don't often get to catch perch like that. We're not extraordinary perch fishermen by any means, but yeah, it's been really fun, challenging, trying to dial this stuff in. And our favorite time of year is coming. Well, is it our second favorite time of year?
I don't know. They're all my favorite times of year. That's the problem is, I mean, that is the fun thing about being a fisherman. I guess that's a weird way to put it. But, we have fall fishing coming up, which is totally different from summer fishing, which is totally different from spring, which is all totally different from winter. And I'm not telling you anything new there. I mean, that's stupid. But the way that you use one to relate to another. And so you're talking about finding these deep wood piles or finding these weed beds, and these are things that we are keeping track of right now. All the weeds that are floating around in the lake, and they annoy you because they're getting caught on your line and all of that kind of stuff. Keep track of where all those different weeds are, because those are the places that fish congregate, certainly in winter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I guess the other thing, I don't even know what you titled this show, to be honest. Is it just random chatting? Are we talking about plastics? Because
I'm waiting for somebody to throw a curveball question at us. In the description, I said that people come in and ask whatever they want, and so far crickets.
That's so funny.
Not crickets. Hey, Eric, you're tuning in. Bring on winter. Damn near 100 degrees today. Heck yeah, man. Yeah. I'm ready for it.
But we are using this time to kind of explore for winter, like we were saying. And so, I don't know, at least in my mind, I have a lot to talk about with plastics today. And I think part of this was spurred by a conversation that we had. I called it a conversation. It was a post and it was a whole bunch of comments. To me, it felt like a conversation, but because everybody was there to give a whole bunch of input, and that was great. You told me not to tear these off. Can I tear one off?
No, they're curing.
This means nothing to people on camera. I'm tearing one off. Okay, so we had talked about
Hey, John.
plastics and people getting plastics and all that. So we don't really sell plastics, but we do make a whole bunch. And part of that is because it's a hobby, and part of that is because I don't know, in order to
just
talk
don't really
about
have the
things, it's fun
time,
to learn about it. Yeah, but we do it for ourselves. And so in this case, I think one time we had spent some time pouring some baits together on one of these Night Bite episodes. So if you're interested in that, I think it's just a few episodes back. But this is a color that's very similar to what we even poured that night. I think we jokingly, but now seriously, call this like a glitter princess color because it is like the
unicorn glitter princess.
It's the most ridiculous color of pink.
That's my
and
name for it.
In person, the glitter is really bright, so that is not translating very well. Now it's not even in focus. Anyways, we're doing the best that we can here. A little bit farther away, you can get a little bit more of an idea. But what we do have here, is the bait itself. And so when you see them all hanging together, we call this the sprue. Hold it closer.
Yeah, so okay. So here's the deal with this color. So it's two Hobby Lobby glitters. One is a straight cut holographic pink. The other is called the neon. Close. Eric's making fun of me. So the other one's a neon pink holograph, like super fine glitter. And so there's no colorant in this besides glitter. That's clear plastic with glitter in it. And it's an awesome color. I have no idea why fish like that color. We stumbled upon it just trying new things and kind of got a recipe together that we like as far as how much color goes into how much plastic. And yeah, it's awesome. And it's actually, if I can nerd out a little bit, it's a little bit difficult color to get right because for people that don't know, holographic glitter tends to change color if it gets too hot, or it'll lose its hologram effect. So if I burn it, it'll turn orange, which sometimes I do intentionally, but most of the time I try not to. And so it's a really hard temperature control thing that, that I have to work out with here. But yeah,
I was looking for like a good background to put
it's
behind.
fine.
Yeah, it is what it is. And Erica's saying that's the bait doesn't necessarily transfer like we're talking about, and I totally believe you. And that's why, to be honest, this is a terrible color to talk about on screen because of that, but it's one of our favorites. And so I had made a reference to a post earlier in the week where we talked about, do you put the tail up or do you put the tail down? And I didn't even grab a hook, which now I feel so stupid. Like I'm so unprepared.
Well, go to the lab and grab one then.
Okay. But we made a reference to a post, so you keep talking about that, I guess.
All right, so yeah, I mean, we could grab a white background, but really, so you can look at Emily's post, and it has the same twister in it. It's that same color, and really, the reason why it doesn't come across, even if we held it on a white background, it's because the light in here is not like natural light, so it doesn't. Even sitting here, it probably looks about the same as it does on the screen, but outside it looks a lot better. Sure, Eric, I'll get right on that. Well, maybe you'll win. Okay, so maybe I'll touch on that a little bit. So Emily surprised me with that post talking about these baits and saying that we would do a giveaway for people that commented on the post, and there was lots of comments, lots of great ideas, stuff that I would have never thought of. There was one in particular, I'm not sure exactly who said it, but they were talking about, for vertical jigging, having the hook coming out with the tail. So coming out here when you're trolling, coming out here. So that was a great, lots of great tips just for hooking up a twister. So if you haven't seen that post from the 25th of July, it's a pretty cool post just to read some of the comments. But we will be picking somebody. I don't know if we're doing it live here tonight or if we'll do it later after the show or tomorrow or something. But we'll get somebody some plastics. And I guess what I kind of wanted to touch on tonight. So we had on, I don't know, maybe 10 shows ago or something, somewhere along the lines of that. Sometime this spring we had on Epic Bait Molds. So they're a super cool couple. They live in Florida. And they make bait molds. So we actually picked up, we're going to be sending out some of, our custom twisters that there's only 2 molds. So we have the molds for those and some of these epic bait molds. These are the epic prey baits. So these are pretty cool. This is kind of a weird silver gold ugly color. It was part of a bunch of baits that I melted. But that's a pretty cool bait. I really like that. It has lots of detail on it. I think we have a 3-incher, a 2-incher, and like a 1.7 or something. So we have all 3 sizes of those. We're going to probably include in the pack. Here's what they look like when they come out of the mold. So it's just a whole bunch of them. But yeah, they're pretty cool little baits. Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
1 jig head. You have like 8 jig heads.
Okay, so here's the deal. I couldn't find a jig head. Is that a stupid thing to say? But because
you can't find a jig head. There's boxes and boxes.
I was looking for one that was like painted or like cool or like something about it. I don't know. And then honestly, I couldn't come up with it. So we have a little bucket that we call a bucket of zombies. Because honestly, it's like all the jigs that were like
you're awesome,
the
Eric.
accidents along the way. I don't know. And so I will admit these jigs that I grabbed are not necessarily like my favorite or like the most beautiful, but like
I would have just grabbed lead ones.
They're gonna be awesome.
Yeah, they would have been fun. This one is now green screen. Now it's just invisible.
Oh shoot. That's yeah, straight disappears. Funny, weird. Won't use that one. Okay. Well, we have these other jig heads. And that'll be perfect. I don't know. What were you guys talking about while I'm gone? I'm just busting back in and restarting up a conversation here.
Yeah, we were just talking about epic bait molds, and we have a couple of the epic prey baits that we're going to be giving away. We were talking about the giveaway a little bit.
Okay.
Just talked about the colors.
So ultimately, I guess where I was going with things is that because we were talking way earlier in the show about like looking or I guess fishing new waters that we had moved a year ago and all of that. And so navigating new waters, how do you know, first of all, that you're putting in a bait that the fish are going to want to eat? But then how do you choose which bait? And so where do you start? I was going to throw a bunch in, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Well, I start at home. So I start at home and I take a look at the lake on the DNR website. I am still part of the Lake Link crowd, so I can hear the boos from here. But no, you can find out some good information from there.
But once you get to the lake, I'm talking about we're all the way on the water here.
No,
yeah, we're all the way on the water here.
You just said how do
yeah, we're talking about plastics. We're talking about this bait. And so, I mean, I guess.
How do you do it then?
Well,
lead by example.
We fish the same way. We're in the same boat. So I guess one of the things that we do is first of all spring or first of all summer. And so that's why you had referenced the water temperatures to begin with, because that in part is going to determine if the fish are shallow or not. Now, I think in those cases, why I'm referencing that is because that's going to depend on if we are out trolling or if we are using a bobber. And part of that is the depth. Part of that is the presentation. So when we have this twisty tail here, that's partly because it's summer and the water temps are warm enough that fish are spreading out. And whether we are trolling or casting or things like that, this is definitely a bait. We are looking for something that has movement, that can keep up with us as we are moving, because we are looking for those different groups of fish, or if it's a trend that they're setting up on. So either fish could be like in pods and schools floating around in different areas, whether that's eating or whatever, or they might all be on like the 12-foot contour, give or take. And that's going to, I guess, depend on the fish's preference in the lake. But when you have a bait that has a funny twisty tail like this, you have that flash, you have that attention grabbing. But this is a bait that swims, that can really keep up with you, I guess, as you're trolling and fishing around. I see here that you have some other baits, and this is a bigger one here. And I think you guys were talking about this exact bait and the colors and all of that. But this is another really great bait that can keep up with you with that paddle tail. And so it doesn't have quite the flash because maybe this one has glitter or that tail is like really flame fiery. This paddle tail, it gives a lot of action, but they do give two different actions. And so, you know, the funny thing we talked earlier this week in the post about, does it matter which way you put the tail, forwards or backwards? My response, I use the plastic until it's, I'm going to say, dead. So I put the hook through one direction, I fish with it, I get bites, it's great, it gets ripped up. I turn that bait the opposite way and I hook it right through and I keep fishing with it until it gets torn up. And so it's so cool to me that there are people on the post that are like opinionated, you know, it goes this way, it goes that way, because of this, because of that. And like, yes, because that is your confidence bait and you should keep doing that. But for me, I just have found that it doesn't make a huge difference. And so I will use these plastics until they are ripped to shreds. And so some people are really picky on what that looks like or the presentation, or maybe my fish just aren't picky. I bet that's not the case because they are, you know. But when we are talking baits, we, first of all, are looking at those different profiles of what's going to keep up with us as an angler.
Yeah.
Should I keep going? Okay.
Well, I don't. You started out asking about how do you
find fish in lakes. Yeah. This is one of the things that we're doing.
Now we transitioned over into talking about two different actions. So you never told us how you pick your bait.
Well, because if they're in deeper water, then I'm looking for something that swims a lot more. So like these baits that we're here referencing. If fish are shallow, if they're under a bobber, I mean, you're more than welcome to put a twisty tail under a bobber, but I don't know what that's going to necessarily achieve because these are baits that swim. I don't want to call them swim baits because that's something different, you know, but these plastics that really do swim, that really do keep up with you versus let's give two different examples. So again, these are on what we call the sprues. So they do
just
come off. Josh hates this. If you cure it on here for a few hours, they do better. But these at this point, they're cured, in my opinion. Here is an example of something. Oh, look, I brought this paper and I'm not, it's I can see on my end that looked terrible. But what we do have here is all these different little legs. And this is a really great bait that can go right underneath the bobber. And then we also have this other bait that is a little bit leachier. And the nice thing is that when this is in the water, this really does swim like a leech. And all of these different legs do really kind of wiggle around like a bug. And so when we're talking about finding fish, if fish are shallow, I mean, you're more than welcome to cast. Maybe there is that fast bite that they're going to swim out and they're going to eat a twisty tail as you're casting and retrieving. But a lot of times we are finding in that shallower water, if fish are hanging tight underneath lily pads or docks or weeds or brush. Sometimes those fish are hungry and they will dart right out and they will eat. Fine, cool. Fish those days because those are awesome. But on other days when they are with that structure, sometimes they will stick tighter to that. And so that bobber allows you to set that bait in the right depth and give that fish even just one extra second to bite. Because a lot of people will think that you need to cast that bobber out and let it sit there until forever, until it goes down or until you're done for the day. And that's cool. And you do that. But don't forget that bobbers also can move. So in our case, what we do, cast it out, and it is, I don't know, a slip bobber. That's the word I was looking for. I was going to say slidey, and that's kind of dumb. That's not the right term, but you know what I mean. And so even if you are setting it really shallow, you can kind of bop it along the way. And then the fish, in these cases, all these legs wiggle quite a bit. But in the case of something like this leech, it swims right along as that tail kind of hops. And this is a terrible example because it's out of water and it's not really doing anything. Maybe someday I have a dream of setting up a plastics tank and then we'll... I'm going to make it happen.
her set up a plastic tank.
I'm gonna know because I just want to set up like a little camera somewhere
can
so
do
you
it.
guys can
Yeah.
see this. I don't know. I have this dream.
Set
I
it
need
up.
help making it happen. So we're gonna see what we can do. We're gonna see what we can do. It's a dream. By winter is when I really want to do it. So, well, it makes a huge difference in winter. We're talking about presentation under a bobber, but
That's true.
when you're in winter and fish are jigging, you're jigging fish, all of these little nuances, all these little legs, all these little things become so much more important because in summer, I think a lot of times if you just grab their attention, they're eating things this big, this size, that sometimes you will just get that reaction bite. but in winter when you are jigging and sometimes you have to really kind of convince a fish to come on over, the action and baits like this is something that's really going to be helpful to you.
Yeah, that's all. That was your
I don't know I'm looking. I was expecting you to have like a million things to add, and you love bobber fishing, you love trolling, and I did have to remind you recently. I guess this sounds like I'm throwing you under the bus again.
I'm very well acquainted with the bus.
We moved from a place where, the Wolf River has a lot of really fabulous fishing. That was awesome. Our little tiny pothole lakes around our old house have a lot of really great opportunities for fishing. Mm-hmm. For real, it's true. But just being more north, there's more bodies for a million reasons. The fishing where we are has better opportunities now than what we used to have. And I would say, on average, feel free to compare our pictures or not. I guess I'm not trying to hold you this so tight, but I think that we catch on average better fish or have better opportunities for fish catching. In the past, we would go to a little local lake because it was super close to our house and maybe only have a few hours. But the best fish that we were able to catch, even on a good day, was a small eater. And so you celebrate that because fishing is fun. Being out in nature is fun. The boat is fun. Summer is fun. All the things are fun. Bobbers are fun. Trolling is fun, whatever. But out here, we do have opportunities. Quite frankly, we live really close to where we both caught our personal best crappies. And so, to have those opportunities, but now they feel local. To all of a sudden live near your PB Lake. To be honest, we don't go there. It's funny, because we are out exploring these new bodies of water. But I think that we had to stop and take a minute and remind ourselves that we are having better days on average than we used to. Because it's easy to be oh, we only caught 5 big crappies. And it's yeah, that's awesome. If back in the day, we would have loved that, so I don't know. I don't mean to be on a soapbox, but I think it is cool when you are able to, get out and explore those waters and find those fish, because some people, they do have fabulous fishing opportunities around them, but how and where do you start?
Well, I think part of that, and maybe some people can help me with this feeling, but my feeling is not so much the quality, maybe I'd mentioned that. I think more of what I've been doing a lot of thinking about it, and I think something that I'm struggling with is, and we all struggle with it, we all want to go fishing all the time, but not all of us have remodeled a basement to have a lure factory and a rod factory. This is my disease. And so when I get out on these new lakes, I understand people have limits. My limits go way beyond that. If it's 90 degrees, I will be out there all day long. I probably won't eat because I forget. I will get thirsty eventually.
You won't.
And so I want to figure that lake out. But the lakes are a little bit bigger. And so when I don't have the amount of time that I want to go and fish those bodies of water, I get frustrated. Because then I have to wait a week and everything changes. So then you can't really set anything up because every time you go back, it's different. So
that's what keeps you coming back.
Well, not necessarily because
Yeah.
Well, I guess then I need to stop being the captain. I guess
Whoa.
You need to start driving the boat around.
Some days I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. What else? I thought you were going somewhere else. with
No,
that.
I just have I'm having a difficult time just I'm torn between just focusing on one body of water and exploring a bunch of bodies of water and I don't know if Emily's laughing because she's offended or she thinks that you're right. She's not offended. We love you, Eric.
I'm laughing because there are some days for Josh, you could be out there for 10 freaking hours and it's
14.
like, not enough.
Yeah.
And like, I get it. Like, I get it.
You do not. You do not get it.
I personally need to sleep in a bed at night, at least. I do better when I eat at least one meal a day.
I'm only
water
5.5 feet
awesome.
tall. I can sleep in a 16-foot boat.
Oh my gosh. I can't even. So anyways,
I need to get a solar panel. Then my trolling motor batteries won't run out.
If somebody could start delivering food to my boat, I will just start ordering because that's what I'm gonna need.
No, we're catching food.
We're gonna move again. News is out. We're moving to a houseboat. Oh my gosh.
That would be nice. Then I wouldn't have to mow the lawn.
We could not make rods because the finish, the epoxy would not dry.
Yeah,
it would be fine. Humid. On average,
dehumidifier. It would work.
It's not gonna work. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so I guess going back to just like how I attack a lake with when you get to the lake with what my thoughts are. So the first thing I always try to do, and I don't always do it, but I always try, is I take a picture of the water temperature and the time, just because it'll show up in my Google Photos later. It's a good reference. And then I kind of I look at watercolor. I look at, weather plays a big factor into it. Whether that dictates a size a lot of times. So if there's a lot of pressure fluctuation, whether it's either up or down, a lot of movement is not usually a good thing. So if it's been pretty stable for 2 or more days, I'll use a little bit bigger baits. I'll run a 3-inch bait for crappies all day long. But one of the advantages we have is that we're fishing together. So she can use smaller baits or vice versa. One of us can use smaller baits and one of us can use larger baits, and we can dial it in half the time. If I was fishing by myself, I would just run 2 rods here in Wisconsin because you can have 3. So I would put 1 small bait on, 1 big bait on, and I would do a dark color and a light color.
Which would you do which?
It doesn't matter. I don't think. I personally think, in my mind, I would probably run the bigger bait as a dark color, just because normally our bigger swimming baits, like paddle tails and twisters, they're going to be more minnowy, so that a darker color makes more sense. And they're bigger. They just have a lot more movement, a lot bigger profile, so they don't need to be super flashy. So then I'll go to like a chartreuse or a pink or an orange or yellow in that smaller bait, just because it's smaller and they, it'll help them see it'll key in on it a little bit more. But
one of the things that I forgot I wanted to talk about, I guess, is that, to be honest, I've been on this train the last few years of like downsizing baits, because the way that we talked about it was like dessert theory or Jello theory, we've called it. You're going to have a great big dinner. You're not even hungry, but you see like your favorite dessert come out and it's like, you got room for that, you know? And so you kind of set up that similar scenario for a fish, is that you put out a bait, something similar to what they're eating, whether that's based on the action or the size or whatever. But if it is a small size bait, it's something that they probably have room for. And so even those fish that aren't like on the chew like crazy, they may still come and you might get that bite from that fish. We've had a lot of success. I mean, look back through the years. I mean, it's been awesome. We've been having a ton of fun fishing. But again, this year, and I don't know what spurred that, if it's our different lakes, if it's just who knows, I have also started kind of upsizing my baits. And part of the reason that we have this exact bait that's in your hand, is that a 3-inch paddle tail, you said?
Yep.
Is because there are some times where I'm convinced that those bigger fish that are roaming in schools with the smaller ones, that they are targeting the bigger baits. And so you have to think of, you know, bait balls or the bait up close by the shore. You know, there's typically not just one minnow alone roaming that fish are all fighting for. I don't know. Where there's one minnow, there's typically a few or a whole bunch. And so when, let's say, a school of crappies comes upon that, I would imagine, again, I'm not an expert, but that the smaller crappies are eating, you know, what to them is a big minnow, but that the bigger crappies are able to eat the biggest minnows. And so there have been times where I know that we have been throwing baits and we're catching decent fish, but there are better fish out there. And so I can't say that this always works, but there's a lot of times this year already where we have upsized those baits. And I can't say it's like bigger baits, bigger fish. It's not just that easy, you know, but some days it almost is.
Well, and there's a lot of research that goes into fish habits, their preferred bait size. And in general, you know, I think the consensus is 2 to 2.5 inches is pretty much all around. Like,
yeah, but are they studying 18-inch crappies? Because that's what I want.
They're studying everything from, you know, some of your bigger predators to you know, crappies and even bluegills. Like, you know, we catch plenty of bluegills on, you know, this twister, and that's 2.2 inches. So to me it seems like a really big bait for a bluegill, but we catch a lot of them on there, and you'll find instances where bluegills will hit crankbaits, they'll hit almost, you know, so you shouldn't be afraid unless you're going out there specifically for numbers. You know, or if you're out there and you're catching a lot of fish and only a handful are like of the size that you want, upsize your bait a little bit, and then you won't go through as many plastics. And then if you get tired of not catching as many fish, go back to a smaller plastic, go back to catching some fish potentially. So, you know, you can utilize your tackle in that way too.
If you're getting all your tails bit off, just switch to a paddle tail. That's what I do. It kind of works.
Yeah.
Not always.
Not always.
But sometimes. And it is actually amazing to kind of push it to the limit and see what fish will bite on. We had Brian in the comments talk about Matt. He is doing an amazing job on the MLF trail.
Yeah.
And so he is a pro from Wisconsin, not too far from us, a little bit south here. But he has some really great fishing going on. We talked to him, I believe, last week. So if you want to hear more about that, you can go and check that out. But when we were talking about bass fishermen, one of my least favorite, or kind of favorite, I guess, things to hear about is when they're out there and they're throwing those big bass baits and they're like catching the stupid crappies and the stupid walleyes and like can't keep them off their hook, you know. But I mean, I think that there's so much that we have to learn from that. And I think hearing that over and over and over again has kind of settled, I guess, into my brain and also prompted me to fish bigger baits.
That he did, Brian. So.
Oh, he took. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
really?
He won.
I didn't even get to look at, to be honest. I didn't even know.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I just got some of the core tackle hover baits or hover jigs in. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Actually, that is really awesome. So if you've never heard of a hover bait, we spent, gosh, almost a whole episode last time talking about it because, there were so many different aspects of it to talk about, and how he kind of came to it, because it is a very unique thing that him and his fishing partner came up by themselves. So we are going to be fishing with them coming up. But to be honest, it's funny because since they were created by and for bass angling, they do have a kind of larger hook than we would otherwise use for panfish. So I know for crappies, they have a giant mouth. It's going to work for sure. I think the hook is a little bit big for bluegills, but I see definitely an application to use the hover rig under a bobber. Am I giving away secrets? Is that something that you wanted to do? But I imagine that we're going to share that with people anyways, because it is going to be kind of a cool thing that we are going to talk about coming up. So looks like Brian has maybe even used a hover rig. He says that they work great, and they are new. And so if you already have some and you're already using them, then that's a really super cool thing. And we would love to hear a review because I think it's something that people are really going to like.
I personally am excited to do a little bit of testing this fall. I think it's going to shine, as far as crappies go, it's going to shine great when they're, when they're schooled up over their wintering spots or their pre-winter spots, and they have their big schools going on. And I think that's going to be a good application. I am really excited to potentially use some for ice fishing. Especially in some of these bodies of water that we have that are pretty shallow. There's entire lakes where the deepest part is 11 feet. So, we love Widowmaker, and we love if the bite is really finicky, you can really downsize but still have enough weight to pull some of those baits down. But in applications where you might want a little bit of a bigger bait, but not so big of a fall, this is going to be, I think, pretty awesome and just give a little bit different of a presentation. So I'm pretty excited to try that this winter. And for everybody that's watching that are panfish people, if you check out Core Tackle, don't be afraid about the size 1 hook. Like in the 3-inch baits, it'll work fine.
Oh yeah.
Even in, you could probably even put it in this twister. Besides the plastics, we do mold jigs, or pour jigs. We do a bunch of stuff, and so we're familiar with hook sizes and baits. And you can put a number 1 hook is pretty much middle of the road. It's pretty much the standard walleye size. So anything that you would put a walleye bait on, you could probably use on that hover rig. So. And those are plenty small enough for crappies. So, but they are Core Tackle. If you check them out, they are going to come out with number 4 size hooks, I believe Matt was saying. So that's going to be pretty awesome. Hopefully we get in his ear enough and we can get some size 6 hooks. But we'll see.
I guess we will see. I don't know. That's true. That's so true. Gosh, other things that are going on. I will definitely have to check out how Matt's doing. So we'll do that. This weekend, gosh, I don't know. We might only get a little bit of fishing in because
my parents are coming.
Yeah, I have some family visiting, and that's going to be really an awesome time. But I'm not sure if we're going to end up hitting the boat. So we'll see how that goes. Mm-hmm. I know that today it's Thursday. That's when we always come to you with the night bite, and we have a whole bunch of weather coming through and a lot of rain. So wherever the water temperatures are right now, I imagine by the weekend they're going to be different. The heat wave, all these things are affecting fish. So if you were on them last weekend, probably they're going to be in similar places coming up this weekend, but it might be a little bit different. So, bring all of your different tactics that we're here talking about tonight, because never know which is going to be the one that works.
Yeah. With all the heat wave, make sure you check out, what is it? icefishexpo.com.
Yeah.
The Ice Expo is coming up. What do we got? 5 months?
Gosh, it's almost August, so September. Yeah, pretty much. Ooh. That's true.
So yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's starting to fill up. Well, it is pretty much filled up. I know I've heard that some vendors are swapping booth spots around and just trying to get all the nooks and crannies filled up. And Ryan Slimmy and the Ice Junkies, we're all pumped. That kids zone that they're helping us run is going to be pretty awesome. We're going to have a bunch of prizes to give away all weekend. So yeah, check that out. Put that on your calendar. I think that's the second week in December. So pretty stoked about that. Yeah, I guess, there's, if you're local, I don't know if anybody, we haven't made much mention of this, but if you're local around the Anago area, I know the Eland Fishery is going on this weekend. If you know where Eland is, there's
It's a pretty big event. Actually.
Yeah, we heard there's couple hundred kids that show up for that one. They have a bunch of good prizes and stuff. So maybe we'll stop in there. We'll see.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
And Brian is saying might fish Big Green this weekend.
Emily's always wanted to fish Big Green.
Well, I have, because you know what? I have this theory that there's big bluegills in there and big crappies and big lots of things. And that is partially true because just a few weeks ago, the state record, was it a lake trout? Was just caught in Big Green. And I think the person who broke the record is the person who had the previous record. So they broke their own record, which is really cool. I think it's actually, if I remember the picture, somebody like a youth. So a really super cool thing that they were able to, get out there and be doing that. So I don't know how to lake trout fish, but one of these days I watch enough Clayton Schick that I figure I can figure it out. Yeah. We'll see. But it's on my to-do list. So one of these days, maybe that's going to happen. Who knows? But either way, Brian, good luck and let us know. Let us know how it goes, because I'm interested to hear about that. I did also hear just north of that, the Red Granite Quarry. There's all kinds of scuba diving training going on, and I heard that there's big bluegills in there. So if anybody knows about that, hit us up, because I'm interested. I'm interested in hearing about that. But as for ourselves, I don't know what kind of panfish we'll find. I imagine at some point on Sunday we'll hit the boat. But we'll see how that goes.
Maybe I'll go tomorrow. I have tomorrow off.
You're not going without me tomorrow.
Never know.
It's not.
What do you think, Finn?
Finn is saying, "Don't you dare."
She said, "Yes." Look at that pup. Oh yeah. Yeah. So if you haven't, here's we're gonna lay the law down now. If you haven't commented on the, I like it, Eric.
No.
Hey, if you can get up here by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, we'll go fishing.
Rain started.
Oh, look at.
Oh yeah, see. Oh yeah, I know that there's gills in there.
All right, so if you haven't commented, put in your opinion or your tactic on the July 25th post about which way to put a twister tail on a jig. Go comment. You have until the end of the night tonight. Tomorrow I will run a random drawing. Maybe I'll do a little video of that, and we'll see who out of those comments gets the baits. I haven't told Emily, but I think we're going to just make this a monthly thing where we just have an open chat. So share this out, tell your friends, bring some questions, because I think honestly that's when we shine, is when you ask questions and we can answer, and we can give two opinions, and usually it's opposing because we both have two very different fishing styles for the same styles of fishing. I think that's fun. So yeah.
Eric, you're working till noon. Has anyone picked tail first? Oh my gosh, you don't even know. I have secretly tried that, not with a twisted tail. That was not working. But I would never bait. I tried it. It was not successful though, no.
Well, Eric. Oh.
Facing up.
Oh, yeah. No. And like I said, I honestly use it both ways, because if my plastic rips, I just shove that thing right back in there until you can't use it anymore. Because honestly, I mean, we make baits and that's great that we can do that. But for some people, a pack of 6, 8, however many of these are
a few bucks to a lot of bucks, depending on the brand that you're buying, And so when I have the opportunity to use that plastic to the bitter end, I'm doing it.
Yeah. And we're just blessed to be each other's partners and both have the same passion, and we really do nothing but fishing, whether it's fishing baits, decorating our house and fishing things, going fishing, making rods. It's all about fishing, and we're super blessed for it. So we want to share that with everybody.
And no matter what it is, we're here to bring that to you guys as well. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's part of why we do the Night Bite. And I guess that's why we're going to be coming to you, at least just us, monthly. So if you have guests or things along the way that you would like us to bring to you, then pop that in the comments and we will, as always, look into that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I know that we have some great stuff coming up for you guys, and get your guesses in, because looking for somebody to win these baits. Otherwise, looking forward to seeing you guys on next week's edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.